Hey, good morning, everyone. I trust everyone's doing well. Thank you for logging in this morning to talk with us on our multifamily Zoom. And we have Vina Jetti with us
Oh,
as
good
well.
morning.
Good
How are
morning,
you?
Vina.
Good
It's good
to
to
see you
see you
too. Can you
again.
hear me okay?
I
Perfect.
can. We can hear you loud and clear. I want to, first of all, make thank you for making time to connect. I know it's been a while since we chatted last time on a
Yes.
couple of multifamily properties. A lot going on in your world, so
Yes.
we're excited about that.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So one of the things I guess before we wanted to jump into a whole lot of stuff, I wanted to first talk about something that's very important, very dear to you, and that is mac and cheese.
Yes, it is very dear and near to my heart.
I know you were talking about last time in Dallas how you were looking for places to go and have a nice mac and cheese meal.
Yeah, like specifically, I love Noodles and Company's mac and cheese.
Okay.
Like anytime I'm in a state which has a Noodles and Company, because we don't have them in Texas, I'm like, okay, we have to stop here. And people think it's so weird, 'cause they expect me to want like a fancy meal. I'm like, no, we have to go to Noodles and Company.
That's hilarious. I mean, that is so fun. You know how everybody has their specific
Their
something that they
thing.
like, and
Yep.
and so I love it. For instance, for me, I'll stop and try any type of Middle Eastern food. I just love it.
Oh,
The Turk-
okay.
And so I crave it anytime I see it. I'm stopping. I'm trying it all out. So it's
That's your
very,
thing.
yeah.
I
So we
love
have
it.
a lot of people on our class here on our view today, and some of them are agents, some of them are investors, some are people are looking to
Mhm.
possibly get into multifamily, some are wanting to learn how to syndicate, how to be GPs, how
Mhm.
to be LPs. As you know, some of them may be from our sub two Astro community world, and many of them
Love
are probably already your followers, which is a great thing.
it.
Um, but as before we begin, why don't you introduce a little bit about who you are, Viva Fund? You have like 900 million in your portfolio. I mean, a lot of money that you guys are working with.
Yeah, so I'm Vina Jetti. I'm the founder. It's actually Vive Funds.
Okay, Vive.
Um, yes, it's not as fancy as people want it to be. Um, so I started Vive Funds. We mainly buy Class B value add assets across the Sun Belt and Arizona. We've transacted on over $900 million in assets across my portfolio, and I'm hoping to cross that $1 billion mark this year. So, I mean, I probably will, but it's going to be like a milestone moment I can check off. I also am the founder of the Mastering Multifamily with Vina Jetti Facebook community. So I hang out in there a lot, do a lot of education content in there too.
Yeah, so that's a lot of resources right there, just your
Mm,
private personal training
yes.
from the multifamily. So we
Yeah.
want to encourage those who are interested afterwards. We'll put all the details up for people to join
Awesome.
and be part of your group as well on that. And then the Vive Fund,
Mhm.
you're always looking to syndicate, right? So you're looking for investors who may
Yeah.
be. And now you focus primarily though on sophisticated investors
Actually, we do
or accredited.
only accredited. Yeah, we don't
Yes.
do 506B raises, so we don't
Okay.
raise any capital from sophisticated investors. Everybody's third party verified,
Okay.
accredited.
Right. And so that leads us to a deal that I'd like for us to just go over very briefly.
Sure.
And you talk what you can share and what you cannot share,
Yeah,
up to
sure.
you. But, bringing a real life example is important because I got excited when Pace brought it to us in the community. And I'm
Yeah,
like, I'm going to jump in as soon as possible. And you're right. It
yeah.
was only accredited investors. We got in, I think you closed at the end of last year on the
Yep,
Stone
in
Brook.
December. Yep, December 2022. We cannot disclose purchase price publicly though,
Sure.
because it's against our PSA. But it was 197 units in the Research Triangle of North Carolina. Really beautiful asset. I like to call it like a very clean asset. It's pretty boring in terms of business plan, value add business plan. We're going to go in, we're going to renovate the units, bring them up to market. There's a massive delta between the current market and the asset. So the first order of business is really bringing it up to market before we even start renovations.
Right. And so these types of Class A buildings is what you primarily focus on, which is great because this is a great example. Anybody that's on the call in any of our channels can see and say, hey, I like to invest in these types of deals. I think I lost you. Let me see.
I
I
lost you.
think I
Oh,
lost you.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's a Class A location, but a Class B plus, BB plus asset.
How
Screen.
about real estate?
Can you hear me?
Um, okay. Yeah, you're coming in and out. I'm not sure why that
Okay,
is.
you know what? When I can't hear you anymore, I'm actually seeing your screen.
Okay. All right, but you can't hear me when I switch the screen. That may be the issue. Okay, on my end.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, I can't hear you.
So I'll stop on there, but I know I showed a couple of the screenshots there on it. Being an MSA on the research triangle, talk a little bit about what you chose to go through that MSA there and what's occurring in that area for it to be a good investment.
Yeah, so the research triangle is experiencing an explosion in population growth, and there's just not enough product that's coming out there to meet the demand that is happening from the increase in population. But more importantly, what we like about this population that's there is they are high income earners. So Apple has their East Campus coming up there. It's $1 billion campus with highly paid individuals. Like those are the types of tenants that we want in our assets. So maybe the employee of Apple won't necessarily live at that asset, or sorry, at the campus, but they'll live at our asset because it's within 20 minutes commute. So it really depends on the type of job opportunities that are there, not just the population growth of the area.
Yeah, so it's important to see the path of progress, right? What's building around the area, what's developing, who's there,
Absolutely.
who's not there, who's moving out, and who's moving in is as important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So the 197 unit apartment, when somebody invests, let's say this invest as an LP,
Mm-hmm.
and people are looking to invest maybe in your fund as an
Yeah.
LP,
Yeah.
what type of expectations should they have or not have? What should they be looking at as an investor in a multifamily deal?
Well, they should expect that the bulk of the work comes up front. So the bulk of the work is really going to come when they are vetting me as a sponsor, vetting the deal, the opportunity, right? Like that's going to be the bulk of their time. Other than that, they have to just sign documents, wire funds, and then they'll collect their mailbox money, right? Like it's the true definition of passive income. They don't have to worry about tenants, toilets, termites, all of that we take care of. That's what we handle for you. The other thing is everything that we do is a pro forma projection. You'll notice I don't use the word guarantee. I don't use the word promise because I can't do that. This is an investment. It has inherent risk into it. So if you want no risk, you're going to have to go to like maybe a government bond or something that is not an alternative investment class. But what we do provide is a risk adjusted return for investors.
Mhm. Right. And that risk obviously comes with a big reward if that pro
Sure.
forma comes into pass, right? But that's why that research that you just talked about points everything towards, hey, this is going to be a growing asset. The MSA,
Absolutely.
the building around the area, who's moving in. I mean, there's too many positives to think that there's too many negatives, right? Positives outweigh the
Absolutely.
negatives in the risk,
Absolutely.
right? So let's say there's some investors here. I like, for instance, there's some real estate agents that may be watching in one of our channels. There's investors. They're thinking, I'm not a millionaire. I can't invest.
Mm.
How can you direct them to think, hey, it takes everyday people to invest to build these huge buildings. People drive by them and say, oh, this guy must be a billionaire because he owns that apartment complex.
Yeah, I actually thought that too when I first started investing. I thought multifamily was just for like really rich people that had billions of dollars. That's not true. Multifamily is for everybody. And so high net worth investors, if you don't know what an accredited investor is, first you should start by finding out if you are accredited, right? An accredited investor either has an income of 200,000 or more for the last 2 years with a reasonable expectation of maintaining that income, or 300,000 and more if you're married. So single, it's 200, married, it's 300, or not and, or you have a net worth of $1 million excluding your primary home. And a lot of people, if they aren't there yet, will eventually be there at some point in their lifetime. So knowing when you become accredited is really important because you get more opportunities presented to you. If you're not accredited, you're not barred from investing in these types of investments. You just need to find a sponsor or someone like me who does what's called a 506B raise, be like boy. And a 506B raise essentially will allow you to create a pre-existing substantive relationship with the sponsor. And as long as you're sophisticated, then they can allow up to 35 unaccredited but sophisticated investors as long as a personal relationship is there. Now, the biggest challenge is that a lot of sponsors, when you do a B raise, right, like be like boy, you cannot generally solicit. So a lot of sponsors that do B raises can't really solicit the deal or talk about the deal or talk about what they're doing because it could incite a solicitation per SEC rules. So what you need to do is you need to be talking to your networks and asking who is doing 506B raises if you're not accredited. If you're accredited, then you have way more ability to go into many deals that you don't have a pre-existing relationship with the sponsors. So like, for example, you could invest with Vive funds, even if we've never met, as long as you're accredited and you have third-party verification.
Excellent. And that's a great explanation because there are some third-party verification services that you can submit all your documents. They'll give you a letter
Yep.
and say, hey, Vina, here's my letter. I'm ready to invest.
Yep.
It's that simple.
Yep. Totally.
Yeah. So again, those that are on the call, maybe you are a real estate agent. Maybe you're making 150,000 a year. Maybe your spouse has a full-time job. They're making $150,000 a year. It's combined 300,000. They can possibly be considered accredited. That's one way.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. And I would say if you're like even in the upper 200s and you're married or the upper 100s and you're single, I would still go to a third party verification source because they're going to ask you all the questions and they're going to make the determination on whether you're accredited or not based on the documents you give them.
Yeah. And then you have that investor, let's say the mom and pop individual investor, maybe it's just him and somebody else in an LLC. They may not show on their paperwork that they're making 300,000 a year,
Right.
but they may have 10 houses that they're renting out at
Exactly.
100,000 a pop. They've got the $1 million net worth.
Exactly.
So there's many different ways, right? So it's all just about finding what's the best avenue to be able to invest if
Exactly.
you want to be considered an accredited investor and
Yeah.
invest in your type of fund.
Yep. Exactly.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. So now just going back to this property right here, I know this one's on its works. It's already closed. Uh, the capacity is probably filling up really quick. It's a growing
Mhm.
area.
Yes.
When people think of an apartment complex such as this,
Yeah.
what should an investor be expecting to receive an information like a normal investor,
Mm.
their mom and pop, they're doing their job. You're the operator. You're doing all the work in the background. They
Yep.
sit back and wait for a possible return. But what other information should they be prepared for, or how should that help them prepare for another option that they may want to get into with a next offering?
Yeah, so every sponsor is going to do it a little bit differently. So this is something you want to be clear on when you invest with a sponsor because it's a long-term relationship. You're in the deal with me for the entire duration until we exit it, right? So with that, we do monthly updates to our investors and we send quarterly financials to our investors. Every month, you expect to see a variety of information, things like how the asset's doing, where occupancy is, any issues that came up. You'll see how much we're getting in rent premiums. You'll see if there were resident events. You'll see tax information if it's necessary to share with you. So you'll just see like a variety of information, but generally speaking, you're going to get a broad view on what's happening on the asset each month.
Mhm. And so when you do take some of these properties down, how do you source deals and how many do you look at before you say, hey, we're really going to submit an LOI on one of them?
Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. It used to be a lot easier to source deals in today's market. There's just not as many good deals out there. We'll submit LOIs, maybe even like a little bit below where the whisper price or the strike price is. But ultimately, we don't get most of the deals that we submit LOIs for. I could submit 40 LOIs this month and get none of those deals, maybe one, right? And to even submit an LOI, we have to underwrite hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of deals. So we underwrite a significant amount. There used to be a time where you could get maybe like 1 in every 100 deals you looked at would work, maybe 1 in every 200. Now it's like 1 in 4 or 500 are working. As far as sourcing deals, we source almost everything we do is on market, mainly because the size of deals that we target at 75 million and up generally are going to have a broker on them. It's very unlikely that they get sold off market. And so, I always laugh a little bit when I get someone sending me a deal and they're like, oh, it's $100 million. And I go, okay, great. Are you the broker on this? And they're like, no, I'm direct to broker. And I'm like, then why do I need you if there's a broker on the deal? Because all the brokers in our markets know us and we get all of their listings. So it's not something that's proprietary. And so it's diluting the returns for my investors by having someone who's like direct to broker. So if anyone's telling you they're direct to broker, you don't really need that. You just need the broker. If they're direct to seller, that's different if there's no broker involved. But if they're direct to broker, that's not a thing.
That's right. It's people from the residential market that focus on wholesaling and they think they can do the same thing with multifamily. And I always say, listen, if a broker that's spending, hundreds of thousands to market the property is not going to ask a wholesaler to sell his deal. Right? It's not going to work.
And it's funny you say that because the other like telltale sign is when you get these people that are like, oh, it's a 3% buyer's fee.
Yep.
I'm like, I've never paid a 3% seller's fee, let alone a buyer's fee. Right. It becomes a thing where it just screams inexperience. It screams that you don't know what multifamily is. It screams to me that you're not going to be able to help me get this deal closed. So quite frankly, when someone sends me a deal with a 3% buyer's fee, I immediately blacklist them. And I'm like, all right, you're not a multifamily person. Yeah. So if anybody here is watching and they're trying to get into this world, your reputation is really important. And there's not that many people that can actually close deals. And if you send us these things that just tell us you don't have experience and you're not from one of the biggest brokerages, right? Like the CBRE, the Jones Lang and LaSalle, the Newmark, Knight and Frank. If you're not from one of those companies, then we're probably not going to take you very seriously when you actually do have a deal. So I would just caution anybody trying to get into this. Like, don't tell me you're direct to broker. Don't even bother sending it. It's just ruining your reputation. And definitely don't send me something that's a 3% buyer's fee because it's just not the industry standard. It's just not.
Yeah, and that's good insight, right? Because people are trying to grow in their profession and they just need to study the reality of what this is about. Yeah. This is an actual business, right? A multifamily is purchasing an actual business. And the asset is the multifamily building. And a lot of people don't get that. They think of single family mom and pop. I'm going to buy me a couple of these and it's my retirement, right? Well, it's completely different in multifamily. It's a business.
It is. And I think that's like the important thing is like, I understand where the 3% came from because in the single family world, like a seller's broker or selling agent gets like 6% and then they split the commission or co-broker with a buyer's agent. It is so rare that there's more than one broker on any deal that we do. I'm trying to think if we've ever had two brokers. I think one time we've had a co-brokered situation and that was like a very unique situation that's happened. But other than that, like everything we bought, there's only a seller's broker and they're not a fiduciary to you as a buyer. That is industry standard. And all of like the biggest brokers and the brokers that are and I'm not talking about deals that are like 5 million, 10 million. I'm talking like real money deals, like big deals. Yeah. like I had someone send me a deal once. Oh, I'm just going to tell you guys this too. Don't send me a Gmail email address if you want me to take you seriously, period. End of story. There's like no other way to do this. It costs $6 a month to set up a real email address.
Yeah.
Spend the $6 because I had someone send me a message once and they were like, hey, I have a $1.7 billion deal. Are you interested? Email me at, whatever their name was at gmail.com. No, I'm 100% not interested. And even if I was, you just look incompetent. And so, we talk about like fake it till you make it. These are the things you need to be doing to fake it till you make it. And then I think they maybe even added in there maybe the 3% fee. And I was like, I've never paid that. I would never pay that on a $1 billion deal. Like, this is just, it's nonsensical.
Absolutely. And when we're talking about the big deals, 100 million and over, these are big brokerages that at the end of the
Yeah.
day, these properties don't even get listed. They pick up the phone and they say, Vina, I got a deal. You ready to buy? I mean, they call you directly. They're not going to list it. It's not going to be on Crexy. It's not going to be especially LoopNet.
No,
Like,
it's definitely not there.
definitely not LoopNet. It's like it's the death of all real estate, right?
Right.
It's the last choice of anything.
Well, exactly. I always say it's like where large multifamily goes to die, right? It's like if it's on LoopNet, we already said no, right? But the way that we actually get our deals is like our brokers, yes, they'll pick up the phone, they'll call us, they'll tell us they're soft marketing something or something's coming to market. And so we'll get like a heads up, especially brokers we've worked with or in markets we've been really active in. But in new markets, so let's say tomorrow I decide, hey, we're going to start buying in, I don't know, Nevada. Okay. We want to buy in Las Vegas. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to JLL, CBRE, IPA, Newmark, Knight and Frank. I'm going to go to all the biggest, Walker and Dunlop. I'm going to go to all the biggest brokerages for multifamily. And I'm going to ask them to be on their buyers list. And I'm going to send them my buy criteria. And I'm going to establish my relationship with the Nevada team. And they're going to start sending me offering memorandums. And they're going to say, hey, we have a deal. It's 400 units, 1992 build, class B plus location with value add upside potential, right? They'll send me whatever their one pager is. And then I'm going to say, hey, so-and-so, I'm really interested in this deal. Send me the CA or the NDA and I'll sign that. And then I'll get access to their deal room and their financials. So that's really how you're building those relationships with brokers. So when someone comes and tells me they want to charge me 3% for emailing a broker, it's not very helpful for me.
Yeah. It's frustrating. I understand. I hear your frustration because I think the same way. You're a professional, you're a finance professional, you run it as a professional service. I run an investment firm with capital with investors. I get it. But you mentioned a couple of terms that I think it'd be nice if you would kind of clarify them. There's people learning, right? Yeah. And so you mentioned CA, NDA, strike price, whisper price, LOI.
Yeah. Okay. So NDA and CA are kind of interchangeable. It's a confidentiality agreement or a non-disclosure agreement. What that means is I'm not going to take the financials or the information that they share with me so I can evaluate the deal and go and share it, post it, etc. Which, by the way, if you are wholesaling direct to broker, you have likely signed a CA or an NDA, and you are likely violating the terms of that by sending me a deal that you're direct to broker on. So that's another big issue. And I just don't want to do business with someone who doesn't follow what they've agreed to, right? Like that's an integrity issue too. But so that's NDA CA. LOI is your letter of intent. So it basically says, dear seller, I'm Vina Jetti. I want to buy this. I will pay you $100 million. I will close the deal in whatever, 30-day due diligence, 30-day financing period, 30-day extension, whatever that looks like, right? And the terms will change with where we are in the market cycle. And it highlights the major deal points. So earnest money deposit? Is the money refundable or not refundable? Are there any like interesting or weird quirks we need to work through? How am I financing the deal? What is, maybe I'll put something in there about our background or something like that. So each deal is a little bit different, but that's what an LOI is. As far as whisper price or strike price, this is what our broker, the guidance that the broker is giving us on pricing. So they might say, hey, listen, we think this is going to trade at $100 million or $105 million. That's the whisper price of where they think it's going to be. It doesn't mean I have to offer at 100 or 105. I might underwrite and say, hey, it's only worth 98 million to me. And I might offer at 98 million. And that is our strike price of where we're trying to strike or where we're going to strike. Um, Ultimately, it's likely we move up from where we initially offer. It very rarely happens where you're like, I'll give you 98 million and they're like, done, right? So if there's a negotiation, it goes back and forth.
Yeah, so thank you for explaining that. It's so important for people to invest in their education if they're going to take
Yeah.
this seriously, for brokers to take them seriously, capital leaders like yourself to take them seriously. Vina, share a little bit because you have an education. You've got a multifamily group and material that you're training
Yeah.
people, you're lifting up their knowledge. Talk a little bit about that if you don't mind.
Yeah. Okay. So it's not like a formal education or anything like that. It's actually, so I spend a lot of time hanging out in my Facebook group that I mentioned earlier, Mastering Multifamily with Veen and Jetti. And I answer a lot of questions there. But what I do is I do Zoom calls. They're kind of ad hoc. It's not like a schedule because I just travel too much for that to be realistic. But those are free for anybody in the group, and it's free to join the group. So anybody can access all of my Zooms and all my education for free if they show up for it live. So I have 100 seats. The first 100 people that come get to join for free. They get all of the content, everything, right? Then after that, it goes into, I call it Vina's Vault. And so my vault has all of the recordings, and then I add in some ancillary stuff, right? Like some additional resources. I add in, an outline notes. But most people in the vault say, hey, I showed up live, but I had to go back and rewatch it because they're so content rich because I don't hold back anything and I actually operate in this arena. And so I share how we look at things. I share our strategy. I share how I would look at things. We do a Q&A session. And so there's a lot that goes into it, and they're long calls. So people can't always stay the whole time. But I don't know that it's like a formal education program, but it's something to help you guys.
And the information that you carry and you possess because of experience, sometimes I would dare to say, is better than college. Because I'll tell you what, college is 5 to 10 years behind the market. It always is. They're never
Yeah.
up to date. And what
Yeah.
you're teaching is life. It just happened last
Yeah.
week. It happened last month, right?
Absolutely.
The shift and
Absolutely.
changes. It's like the sub two community and the astro community. A lot of good information, but because we have two great leaders that are in touch with the market, they know what they're doing. They're providing that rich content in
Yep.
their vaults, and I think you're doing the very same thing. So, encourage anybody on the call, please join in the Facebook group Mastering Multifamily with Vina Jetti. And if you ship her
Yes.
some mac and cheese, you may even be on her good side.
That's true.
Okay,
And easy to
Vina,
please.
I want to jump a little bit and talk about you are a Forbes contributor, and people around the
Yeah.
world will read your articles. They're smart people, they're educated
Yeah.
people. We're talking about hedge funds are reading your articles, multi-million dollar funds are reading
Yeah.
your articles, and it's a great way to
Yeah.
differentiate your skill. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm just going to show a quick
Oh,
portfolio.
let me put this
Uh,
one. There we
4 points
go.
I'd like to cover: the scaling your real estate portfolio, and maybe you can just walk us through that article because I think it's got a lot of great information.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't see it if you're trying to share it.
So I'm sharing just topic one of that article. I don't. Do you see it there at
Okay,
the bottom?
perfect. General partner. Yes, 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 yes. So experience and knowledge of the general partners, right? Like this is where you are going to be able to differentiate from other sponsors is what is your knowledge? What is your track record? What is your experience level? Are you able to confidently move investors through the entire process, right? Yes, Alex, we do lose sound when you share your screen.
Oh,
So I think it's
sorry
better to
about
maybe
that. I got to fix
yeah,
that.
no,
Yeah.
that's okay. But it's about as a general partner, what is your knowledge, what experience, what track record, what resume, what background, what knowledge base do you bring to the table? And as a passive investor, that's important to you because you want to know that the person that's operating your deal has done this before, or at least knows where to access the information that they need to access to be successful when they have your money.
And not only that, Vina, because so see, that's you as an operator
Yeah.
showing your expertise.
Yes.
But as investors become wanting to become maybe an LP as an accredited investor,
Yeah.
they should be asking this question. But they should
Absolutely.
also, what should they be doing when they're asking this specific question in their mind?
Actually, what they should be doing is reading the communication materials because a good sponsor is going to tell you this, right? Like out of the gate, I'm going to tell you this is my portfolio experience. This is what we've done. I might have case studies. So out of the gate, I'm going to tell you this, right? But then secondly, oh, thank you, Josh. And then secondly, when you're talking to the sponsor, you want to make sure this is someone you like doing business with because we have to talk to each other for maybe 5 years. That's a long time. So if you don't like talking to me, I'm not the right sponsor for you. You don't need 100 sponsors. You need like 2.
Yeah, absolutely, right. And the goal is that as you start building that relationship, such as we're working with Pace, we're working with Vina, we're working with Molly. My goal is that I don't just invest in one; I invest in more than one. Right, that's
Mm-hmm.
the goal. And I
Yep.
know that Vina, I know some people are after this call are going to say, Vina, I'm going to bring you my deals, right? Or
Yeah.
Vina, I have this deal. You want to get into this, and you want to be
Yeah.
right. Would you be the operator on this deal, right? And I know they're going
Mm-hmm.
to come. Those questions are going to come. You've
Yeah.
already dealt with this, but what are your
Yeah.
thoughts when people start doing this?
I like in my heart, I want to help everybody, but the reality is I'm just not a good partner for most people, not because I don't have the experience or the knowledge base, but because I don't operate in every market, in every asset
Right.
class, at every deal size. I'm very laser focused about what we will do and where we will operate and what kinds of assets will operate. So that's number one. Number two, if you ask me to raise capital for your deal, it's going to be a problem because my investors are not primed for or educated for your type of deal. They're only educated for my type of deal.
That's right.
And as a rule, I don't put investors into any deal that one, I'm not going to invest into, but two, I'm not going to put them into any deal that I don't have control rights. And you shouldn't want to give control to me. Now, if you want to bring me on in an advisory capacity, then that's totally different. But if it is in like a general partnership or something like that, it just won't make sense. And, I have a buy box that I stick very closely to. But like I said, an advisory role, I would look at that. I'm working through that right now with Nick, our securities attorney. But for me to be an operator or GP on the asset, most of the assets that I see are just, I'm not a good partner for you.
Sure. That's good answer. And yeah, if
Yeah.
anybody has questions, just go ahead and put it in the chat. We'll cover those in the last 10 minutes of the show here. We'll go to
Yeah.
number 2, Vina, of your article. You're talking about personal exposure.
Yeah. So personal exposure and like building your own brand is really important because your investors will want to see that you do know what you're doing. They'll want to consume the knowledge and the content and the strategy that you are doing. But more importantly, social media is so accessible these days. And this is where you find your partners. It's not even just LPs, it's your partners, right? Like, this is where you're going to find your operating partners. This is where you're going to find your KPs. This is where you're going to find your capital markets. This is where you're going to find your property managers. So don't be shy to utilize social media as a tool for your own personal exposure so that people that are looking for you can find you.
Yeah, and I've noticed you put a lot of content on your social media. I mean, tons of content, and you're teaching about, what do you do with parking spaces the moment you take over a property? What do you do in the kitchen when you do a value add? Talk about your experience in doing the social media and how is it impacting the growth of your leads?
Okay, well, I do as I say, not as I do, because I actually like really am bad at creating content. Like, it does not occur to me that I should be like creating content from everything I do. So that's like a resolution or goal for me this year, is to be better about it. I have an amazing team that handles all of the back end work, and they chop it up and they post on regularly and they make it seem like cohesive. And like, if it were me, it wouldn't happen, because that's not my thing. So with that, they handle all of that stuff, but they give me the topics, and then I have a lot of topics that I want to talk about because you guys ask me questions, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, I've heard the same questions like 17 times. I need to answer it in a more in a way that has more longevity. And so I enjoy talking to new investors and helping new investors. I enjoy that, like, especially when people are just starting out, and because I remember what it was like, and someone answered my questions too. So I do try to put out more content. I try to make it really like technically rich, not just like, oh, you should invest in multifamily because it's a great asset class and everybody can make money here. Like, okay, thanks, but that's not really that actionable or helpful for me. I want to know like how you're thinking about it. How are you looking at it? Where are the bodies buried? Like, that's what I want to know. And so I try to put out content that aligns with that.
And that's important because that differentiates somebody that knows
Mhm.
about multifamily versus
Yeah,
somebody that practices multifamily. Big
true.
difference, right? Because
True.
you know the details and the changes and the movements and the what you
Yeah.
should or should not do. Big
Yes,
difference.
absolutely. It's not theoretical.
Right, that's correct, right? And I think the material that you have in your Facebook group and your vault is taking theory and putting to practice and putting step one, step two, step three.
Yes,
This is how you do it, right?
that's exactly the goal.
In your social media, how do you sift through the noise to know this is a quality lead, not a quality lead?
Oh, the lead. Well, I'll tell you, that is probably one of the biggest weaknesses that our business has, and one of the biggest challenges that we face is because of the volume of people that want to connect and reach out. It's really tough to go through all of it. So I direct everybody into my portal on my website. So if they're like, hey, I want to invest with you, I'm like, great. And they can go to vivefunds.com, and then we have an intake questionnaire, which will help us qualify the lead from there. But usually when people are interested, they'll reach out again after seeing what we offer, or they'll give us like some kind of indication that they want to work with us.
Yeah, and I think sometimes even the lead doesn't know what they want, right?
True.
Because I see this happen a lot. Hey, I want to connect with you. I want to partner with you. And I'm like, okay, what value do you have to bring?
Yeah.
What do you mean you want to
Yeah.
partner with me? You want to bring funds? Are you asking me to
Yeah.
teach you something? Are you trying to connect so even they themselves don't fully get it, right? They don't. And I think that's part of the
Totally.
sifting through. And that does take
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a good point, because I get a lot of people that will reach out to me and be like, "Oh, I saw you on here," or "I'm in sub 2," or whatever it is, and they're like, "I'd love to connect," and that's it. And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Okay." Like, I don't know what to say to this. I don't have any context. I don't have any information. I don't know why we're connecting. And for me, if you guys like have seen me enough, you know that the thing I value above everything else, above dollars, above everything, is time.
Yep.
And so I know that, you or someone is like, hey, can I pick your brain? I'll take you to lunch. Can I pick your brain? And I'm like, no, because I can just buy my own lunch and then I don't have to spend an hour away from whatever it is that I need to get done that day, right? So like I know that that's something that a lot of people encourage, especially this like big single family thing too, is like, oh, just buy them lunch. It's worth the $30 or $50 or whatever you spend, or like $8 if you're taking me to the Noodles and Company, right? Now that actually might be the way to get me there, is be like, hey, I'm gonna take you to Noodles and Company. I'll be like, all right, just tell me when and where. Say no more. Uh, but no, it's just like, my time is so valuable that like I appreciate the gesture. It's like so kind of you. And I would love to do that, but I just don't have enough time to do that. Like my life is just too busy. And so that's what makes it really hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's also
And
why I hang out in my Facebook group. And that's why I do these Zooms, so I can talk to many people and give them really good content because I have that time available.
And I think that's so important because, like I said, people I think are, I would say 60 to 70% of people that hear you speak, go somewhere, Zooms like this, somehow they just want to be in the aura of Vina because they want to learn something. But they
Yeah,
don't really have a whole lot of value to give at this point because they're too new. Right. And so I think that's their disconnect. And so what I normally do, what I've learned to do is say, okay, here's a link, go learn, because I do a lot of sub two and I've been doing it for 17 years. And it's like, I want to do
right.
some sub twos with you. I said, okay, great. Here's my link. Go learn it. Then come talk to me.
I
Because I
love
don't
that.
have 8 hours to sit down and teach you. I want to
That
know
you
that you put in the effort before I put in my effort.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. If someone's like, hey, I want to pick your brain, and I'm like, okay, did you watch it? I can see if you've watched every single Zoom I have in my vault. And if you
Yep.
haven't done that, then you really don't want to pick my brain. You just want to take my energy and my
Yep.
time. And I'm
Yep.
not okay with that. Now, if someone, like, there are many people in the group that show up consistently over and over and over. And when they reach out to me with a question, I know they've shown up live. I know they subscribe to my vault. I know they've rewatched the videos. I know they're helping other people in the community. They're active. They're teaching other people. When those people ask me for, hey, I have this thing, I have a problem. I'm like,
Mhm.
great, let's jump on a Zoom and let me help you through it, right?
Yep.
Because now I know that my time is not going to be wasted here. 99% of the people that I give this information to are going to do nothing with it. Nothing. They're not going to implement it. They're just going to maybe know more, but it's not going to matter, right? And so I don't want that. I'm looking for impact now. So, and I would challenge someone who is brand new, who thinks they don't have anything to offer. You know more than somebody else about something. It doesn't matter what it is, right? Like there's some topic that you know just a little bit more than one other person in my community, right? And what you can offer is go and help that person,
There you go.
right? I like the biggest thing that I've had. This is actually a big challenge of running a community like this because it's not my bread and butter. Is there's a lot of queries and requests, and I've been hiring mods on the back end to try to get everybody like more up to speed and kind of handle things so I don't have to be as active in it. And they do an amazing job. But I'll see people every day, at least 4 or 5 times a day. I get tagged on a post in the group saying, "Where can I find the vault?" And at first, I used to go and I'd pull the link and I'd be like, oh, here you go, here it is. And then it kept happening. And I was like, okay, number one, did you search in the group? Because if you search in the group, it is referenced 1,000 times. There's no way you have missed it. So that's number one. Number two, there are so many people in the group that know where it is. And those people who maybe don't feel like they have enough knowledge to talk about multifamily, you can share this link. And I see people doing it all the time now. And I
Yep.
love them for it. Like I absolutely adore them. But they'll go and they'll grab the teachable link and be like, oh, okay, here's the vault. You can go to announcements, or they'll teach somebody how to do a search in the group for the topic that they need. And like for me, that is so valuable to me and that is useful to me. And yeah, you might not be able to talk about like exit assumptions on cap rates based on pro forma NOIs, but you can talk about this one thing and that helps me and it helps someone else. And that's important.
Oh, absolutely. You know, one thing I learned, I was living overseas in language learning, and they taught me
Yeah.
that if you learn something and you say it to 30 people in that one day, teach it just
Yep.
30 times to somebody. It could be
Yep.
somebody at HEB, it could be somebody at the restaurant.
Yeah.
Don't matter. Just tell 30 people what you just learned, and now has become a knowledgeable, transactionable information that you can put into action.
Absolutely.
And I practice that
Absolutely.
over and over and over.
I love that. And we do that in the group, like on my Zooms. I always say like see one, do one, teach one. It's like the medical model. That's how they
Hmm.
train their residents to become doctors. First you see the procedure, then you do the procedure, and then when you really have a grasp on it, then you teach someone else the procedure. And so that's what I tell them. I'm like, listen, see one, you're going to do it, and now you need to go teach it to somebody else.
Hmm.
And so that's how I ask for people to increase the impact that I can have. Because as much as I want to, I can't practically help as many people as I would like to. And so if I can teach, my goal is, I just said it the other day, and so now it feels like a real goal, but I said I want to try to help 10,000 people
Wow.
in multifamily.
That's
And
beautiful.
so, yeah, but now it feels real because I like put a number to it, and I was dodging it for so long. And I did a whole like goal setting workshop. And then I was like, except don't ask me what my goal is here because I don't want to be held accountable. But so I said it. So I'm going to help 10,000 people. I can't do that on my own. Oh
There you
gosh, you
go.
put it into writing. That's
Yeah.
even
So
worse.
see,
But
now she's absolutely 100% determined to accomplish it.
yes, now I have to.
Now you have to. We'll go quickly to the third point of your article, talking about the type of staff, I guess, in the organization.
Yeah. Yeah, so you need to start hiring staff probably earlier than you're actually going to do it. This is a pain point every business faces, not just multifamily businesses, because you're always worried about how you're going to pay them until you have enough business. But by the time you have enough business to afford them, you already needed them. So it's a huge pain point. It's very normal to go through this. But you want to make sure you're considering how it's going to impact your investors. We have, for example, we have an investor coordinator who handles a lot of touch points with our investors, and he's just amazing, and our investors love him, and it's so important to us that is there. And so I think that hiring staff is really helpful to actually get to scale. And also depending on what you need it for, right? Like you maybe need an admin, you maybe need an analyst, you maybe need underwriters. So you'll continue to scale up as time goes along and build that out.
Man, that's excellent. And then not just hiring staff, but hiring the quality of staff that's going to follow the culture that you're trying to imbibe in your organization, or talking to clients, talking to
Yes,
external customers, internal
absolutely.
customers. Yeah.
Absolutely. We hire for a cultural fit first.
What would you say your culture is if you were to box it up and put it inside a picture and we're able to see that culture? What does it look like?
Mhm. So we hire people that we think are going to be the best at what they do. I don't care about your technical skills. I care about your soft skills first. I can teach you how to use certain softwares or processes and systems. What I can't teach you is that you want to wake up in the morning and come to work. I can't teach you that, okay, today you might have to work an extra hour that you weren't anticipating, right? We also, our culture is like very much self-regulated, self-starters. I give our employees unlimited PTO. I don't micromanage them. I don't know what time they start. I don't know what time they end. I don't care if they take like a 2 hour lunch. I don't care if they want to hop on a flight. As long as all of their work is done, I don't care where they're working from. I do not micromanage any of our um, employees because they're self-starters and they're problem solvers, and they'll go out and try to solve a problem. We hire people that anticipate problems before they happen, right? Our organization is very clear on having work-life balance. So for example, I had an employee that worked on, I think it was like New Year's Day or New Year's Eve or sometime when the company was closed. And it was because he had to meet a deadline. And I told him, I said, okay, I love that you're doing this, but next week, make sure you take an extra day somewhere so you can do whatever you need to do with your family. And it's that give and take of the company culture that I think makes it so special,
Mhm.
because we really do pride ourselves in that work-life balance. And we believe that everybody has something valuable to contribute to the company. So just because it's like the lowest paid employee that is giving us an idea of how we could be better or change systems or processes, we don't dismiss it. We take them all seriously because I want you to feel empowered to come up with solutions or ways that we can be better. I don't know everything. I don't know the things in your role that could be better or more efficient. You know those things. I'm relying on you to know those things. And so we really look to our employees to be a huge part of the change in the company as well.
Yeah, and that's exciting, right? Because the
Yeah,
culture is really what's going to keep the glue of the
absolutely.
organization. That's beautiful.
Absolutely.
The fourth topic that you mentioned or the article here
Yeah.
was the ease of engagement. This is an
Yeah.
interesting phrase of information.
Yeah, you want to be easy to work with. Whether you're working with brokers or sellers or buyers or investors, especially, you want to be easy. Nobody wants to make all of this additional effort to help you in your business and get the pieces in your business together, right? So, every single thing we do, every touch point I have with investors, it's all about streamlining. How
Mm,
can I make this easier? How can I take this burden off of our investors and put it on our team
mm,
instead so that they have a better, they just have a better experience. They have a frictionless process is what I want.
mm. Yeah, friction's going to come. I mean, it's going
Yeah,
to be there. So one
yeah,
thing I learned in psychology: the moment you have one more than one person in the room, there's going to be conflict. That's just the
yeah.
way it is, right? So the
Well,
question is, how do I prepare for it with the right culture?
anticipate it and how you can hedge against it. Because that's the thing is you are going to have things go wrong. There's just that's the nature of being in business. I don't want to burn my goodwill on you having trouble signing your documents. That's not
Yeah,
where I want to burn the goodwill. I want to
right.
burn the goodwill when I have something serious that I really need to call it in.
Mm, absolutely. So as we kind of get here to our closing, Vina, what's one need you have today in your organization, in your business? If you were to keep it simple and
Oh,
something that is available, what's the biggest need you have today?
I have so many. One is I always need LP capital, so I always need more accredited investors. Two, like I said, I'm trying to reach 10,000 people, mainly through my Facebook community. So I would love if anybody who's in that community would help me grow that so that I can reach my goal. I'm hiring for admin, an executive administrator or executive assistant position. So if you know somebody that might be a good fit for that, would love to look at interviewing them. Man, I could be better at processes and systems. I need more automation in my life. There's so many. I want to organize my educational side, which I know you reached out about to help me, and I appreciate that. And I probably will end up taking you up on that. Um, so many things.
That's funny. And everybody has a need, and as business grows, needs grow. It's just
Yeah.
part and parcel of the
Yep.
process.
Yep.
And for years, I still do a lot of, I did management consulting, and I worked with
That makes sense.
organizations, and all we focus on is how do we create the best culture for this organization, and we
Mhm.
developed what you call an organizational plan.
I
In
love
the
that.
80s, it was all about skill and hopeful attitude. So it was the boss telling you
Yeah.
what to do. Hey, sit
Yes.
down. You better be in your seat at 8 o'clock in the morning, and you better not see your butt leave before 5 p.m. Right? It was
Yeah.
just hard culture. Now,
Yeah.
unfortunately, there's some organizations they still run with a pit bull boss, right?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to work there. In the
Yeah.
90s, it started shifting to okay, let's open up the space, let's kind of work together, right? And then we got into the 2000s. We're lucky if we even want to go to work. We're going to
Yeah.
work only on Wednesdays and Fridays if you want to,
Right.
right? And now
Right.
we're at a complete virtual dynamic. And the phenomenal was that after the reset, something became called the Great Resignation. So
Yes.
everybody just quit. It's like,
COVID. Yep.
boss, up your nose.
I'm
I'm not going
out.
to work with you.
Yeah. I'm out.
Yeah, you're out. So now it's called the Great Renegotiation. That's where we're
Oh,
at now. So
makes
now
sense.
people are coming in saying, "Wait, I am not going to accept your 9 to 5. I'm not going to accept your
Yeah.
rules. If you don't negotiate with me, I'm not coming back to work." And
Yeah.
so big, huge multinational corporations are trying to figure out how do they grow moving forward with a culture that feeds the need of their employee. And
Yep.
number two, how do we make them the best they can ever be so they can have self worth, self reliance, proactive,
Absolutely.
the entire culture that you're talking about. So,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
busting at the seams for growth.
And I think too, it's important to have flexible work schedules if you want to support more women in the workplace.
Yes.
Because a lot of times women are the default caregiver, whether it's
Mm,
for their children or their parents or their sister or their friends.
yeah.
And I want the best. I want, and I firmly believe that includes women. And so by offering these types of incentives
Mm,
or benefits, our company culture, really, I think that we attract
yeah.
better talent, especially from women um, that might not have applied had we had like a very strict 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. You better be in front of your computer. Like, it's just not. And I hate micromanaging, so it's partly self-serving.
Some people love micromanaging and some people
No,
absolutely hate micromanaging.
I
And
hate it. I honestly, I will sever ties with somebody if I have to micromanage them.
yes.
It's not for me. I'm not good at it. It stresses me out. I'm mad about it. It's not a good fit for our company.
And you know what? We're too adult to be babysitting people, right? It's like,
Exactly.
hey, get back into the deal.
Right.
Uh, as we start closing off, I know some of if you have guys have questions, please go ahead and put them
Mhm.
in the chat, and I'll put them up there. Vina, what's one of the best books you've read here that you're reading or that you're learning from right now? If you can name a book,
Oh, okay. So it's funny you say that because I've been revisiting a book from last year that I got, Rocket Fuel.
it's upside down.
I've been going back. Is it upside down? No.
Oh, oh, I see. I sorry, it's the mirror. Never mind.
Oh,
It's the
weird.
mirror image. The mirror image. Never mind. You got it right. Sorry. It was
Okay, okay.
there.
Well, it's called Rocket
Uh,
Fuel. It's a great book.
yes.
I'm, relearning because I'm very much a visionary and I am trying to really find more integrators in my life in all of my businesses because I really need that.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's I think a good book right now.
Here's a quick tip. This is what I would do in management. I don't know if it'll help you any. I would get
Yeah,
the
no,
book. I'd get the book. I'd buy for all of my staff, and
oh,
we
I
would
love
go over
that.
that book on our team dynamic meeting Monday mornings or Tuesdays. It would be
Oh, I
part and
love that.
parcel. We start our training for what's going on for the week, and everybody's assigned a chapter. They have to read the chapter. They have
That's
to come
great.
back at that meeting, and I would say, for instance, let's say Stephanie worked for you. Hey, Stephanie, you're going to come back and teach us what you learned in chapter one.
I
John, you're
love
going to teach
this.
chapter two. So every week that you meet, everyone covers a chapter. If they do every chapter, they get the
Oh, I
book
love
for
it.
free. If they don't do their chapter, they have to pay for the book.
I love this. Thank you for that. I am going to
Yeah.
actually figure out how to implement that.
And so now everyone's in the same culture with you.
I love this.
Yeah.
I love this.
What's one thing you want to change about Vina?
Oh, let's see. There's so many things. I don't know which one to pick.
One thing
I
to help you improve. Let me
okay.
continue the question. To help you improve in your life, business, social life, family.
Well, I talk about this a lot in my one of my vault calls. I have a lot of imposter syndrome, and so being like out there feels really vulnerable to me, and it makes me nervous sometimes. Not the speaking part because I love what I'm speaking about, but more just like, am I actually helping somebody or am I just wasting my time? Right. So for me, like maybe figuring out how to make the imposter syndrome voice in my head like shut up for lack of a better word.
And thank you. Such a vulnerability of what you just say that, Vina, because it's so true. I think everybody, and somewhere in their life, experience that
Yeah.
because of growth. And really, what it is people want to become better at what they are. They just
Yeah.
don't think they're there. There's an actual psychological term we use in management, and it's called act as if. It's kind of
Oh,
like saying fake it till you make it. Well,
yeah.
and by the way, Stanford has had a study of the fake it
Yeah.
till you make it till you become it. They added
Perfect.
fake it till you make it till you become it. Go
I
watch that
love this.
video by Amy Cuddy. Amy Cuddy, fake it till you make it till you become it, is one of the most powerful videos of that your behavior and your posture forces you to become what you want to become, but you don't feel it but your body helps you get there, right?
Is this the one where she did like the power stance where you
Yes,
do this for
power
like
stand.
3
Yes,
seconds or 30 seconds or something before you go out on
that's it.
like a big room? Okay, yeah, I remember this.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, that's one. The other one
Okay.
is act as if. So you act as if you know the process, even though you don't necessarily fully
Yeah,
100%, but it gets you to that place. So that's very transparent of you to say that. There's
yeah.
new studies in today's world of CEOs that there's teachings on teaching them how to become more transparent so
Hmm.
that they become better, more
Oh,
authentic leaders with their people.
interesting.
So it's a
Okay,
great study in
I love
psychology.
that. I love that. Thank you for that. I love stuff like this part of like psychology and business. I really enjoy.
Well, let's keep talking. I do a lot of this stuff
I would love to.
as part of
Yes,
my
please.
profession. Vina, you've been an absolute pleasure to have as a guest.
Thank you.
Thank you all who joined on the call. Please follow Vina. Get on her channel. Please make sure you go to. She's going to help 10,000 people. You're probably one of those because you're going to be part of her multifamily group,
I hope so.
mastering multifamily with Vina, learning all this stuff. Vina, thank you so much. We'll let you
Thank
go. You're
you.
a busy woman. Thanks for joining the call.
I appreciate you. Thank you, Alex. Thank you for having me. Bye, everybody.
Bye.